which means the candidate could become president despite losing the popular vote. Air traffic controllers at Germany's Frankfurt airport say they will strike in solidarity with their ground control colleagues. The strike is set to take place for 6 hours on Wednesday and is expected to affect at least 300 flights. The move comes just days after talks failed between airport operator Fraport and the ground staff union. Frankfurt Airport is Europe's third busiest airport. Ground control workers there have been striking since the 16th of February. They're demanding higher pay, increased bonuses and shorter working hours. A strike by tower staff could lead to more disruptions at the airport, which has so far been forced to cancel 1,400 flights. Turkey says it will unveil an ancient secret Bible in which Jesus Christ is believed to predict the coming of Prophet Muhammad to earth. The 1,500-year-old book has sparked serious interest from the Vatican. Pope Benedict XVI has claimed to want to see it himself. The handwritten gold-lettered book is worth £14 million and is penned in Jesus' native Aramaic language. It's also said to contain his early teachings. The leather-bound book was discovered by Turkish police during an anti-smuggling operation in the year 2000. Turkish Culture and Tourism Minister has said the book could be an authentic version of the Gospel, which was suppressed by the Christian Church for its strong parallels with the Islamic view of Jesus. Like Islam, the Gospel regards Jesus as a human being and not a god. You're watching Press TV's World News, and these are the headlines. The Syrian president endorses the new constitution approved by nearly 90% of Syrian voters. The Palestinian Authority may reconsider agreements with Israel and spark an uprising against Tel Aviv.
Hold strikes! Hold strikes!
British police forcefully remove anti-capitalist protesters in London. At least 20 activists are detained. And tower staff at Germany's Frankfurt airport will strike in solidarity with their ground control peers. Do stay with us. Still to come, a general strike hits India.
How much do you know about the issues that affect you? Ever feel like you should have a chance to express your opinion? A Simple Question is the show where we hit the streets to find out what the public think. This is the show where you get your say.
This is Press TV's World News. With only 3 days left before Iran's 9th parliamentary elections, the political temperature is rising nationwide. Over 3,300 candidates from 31 provinces have begun their 6th day of campaigning for 290 seats in the Islamic Consultative Assembly. The capital, Tehran, has the highest number of hopefuls with 652 candidates. Some 800,000 executive staff will be on duty on election day, March the 2nd. Over 48 million people are eligible to vote, some 4 million of them first-time voters. Opinion polls conducted by 3 official institutions indicate that voter turnout is likely to go above 60%. Iran's Guardian Council is holding a special session to re-evaluate the qualifications of a number of sitting MP candidates who were disqualified in previous vetting. The spokesman for the council said the MP candidates have presented new documents to prove their qualifications. Abbas Ali Kadkhodai said that several of those candidates stand a high chance of being approved. The Guardian Council, which supervises the country's elections, has disqualified some 35 sitting MPs for re-election. Meanwhile, Katrode added that so far no specific violation has been reported in the election process. The US has refused to temporarily release an Iranian professor held for allegedly buying scientific equipment. Sayed Mojtaba Atarudi had requested the court to allow him to return to Iran during the Iranian New Year or Nowruz. The Sharif University professor is now at his brother's home in Los Angeles, subject to electronic monitoring. The Sharif University Scientific Board members have signed a petition calling on the US to let him return to Iran. Atarudi has suffered heart attack in the US twice over the past 14 months. He visited the US to attend a scientific seminar. Atarudi is an expert on smart card chips and TV digital receivers. He's received a patent on an invention in the US. Millions of Indian workers have walked off their jobs to protest high inflation and demand better working conditions. The walkout is a new headache for the Indian government that's already grappling with a weakening economic growth. We have this report.
Shops and banks have been closed, factories shuttered, and traffic is thin in major cities across India during an industrial strike. India's major trade unions called for the strike and thousands of smaller unions voiced support for the action. Workers are infuriated by high inflation and are demanding better working conditions as well as an end to selling of state firms.
We are on strike against outsourcing, soaring prices and unemployment. The Bihar government has introduced a plan of giving jobs on compensation basis, but the banks are not following those rules.
India has been hit by string of corruption scandals. These unions are demanding a strict and stringent punishment for anybody violating any kind of laws, or they are demanding any action against corrupt leaders. In certain things, I mean, in simple terms, they are very upset over many scandals in the country.
India's inflation rate remains high at 7.5%. High interest rates, stubborn inflation and the government's stuttering reform agenda have made life hard for Indians. The economy is expected to grow by about 7% in the fiscal year ending March, compared with earlier expectations of about 9%. Prime Minister Manmohan Singh's government has faced a slew of protests since winning a second term in 2009. The public anger has dented his ruling Congress party's image as a defender of the poor.
Human Rights Watch has called on a Libyan militia to transfer two detained Press TV journalists to the Libyan government. The rights organisation says their detention is illegal and that the Saraya Sweli militia should immediately hand them over to the transitional government. The militia abducted Press TV's correspondent Nick Jones and his cameraman Gareth Johnson in Tripoli on the 21st of February. 3 locals were also detained along with the journalists. The National Transitional Council has granted Human Rights Watch permission to access all detention facilities, but the militia has so far refused to allow access to the detained journalists. Somali forces supported by the Ethiopian troops have retaken large parts of land from the Somali al-Shabaab group, who controlled most parts of the south and central Somalia. However, Somali president is now calling on the Ethiopian troops to prepare for their exit as AMISOM troops are about to consolidate the areas captured from al-Shabaab. Abdul Aziz Bilo Ali has more.
Somali President Sheikh Sharif Sheikh Ahmed has welcomed the UN move to boost the African Union troops level to 17,731. Sharif said the new forces will help secure the areas recently captured from the Al-Shabaab.
It is vital at this stage for an increase of the AU troops in Somalia, because Fasiland has been liberated from the Al-Shabaab and is now under our control. Every time we will need the assistance of the AMISOM troops, so that we try and ensure that security state of the capital, and then we will impact on the rebuilding of the Somali force soon.
Ethiopian troops have taken control of several towns in south and central Somalia, with the latest being Baidoa town that served as a major stronghold for Al-Shabaab that is battling the transitional federal government of Somalia. President Sharif, however, says the Ethiopian troops must retreat to their border.
The plans after the end of the operations, AMISOM troops will be deployed there as well as additional Somali force. We will be increased in these new areas, and then Ethiopian troops will go back to their borders.
Somalis are however unhappy with the Kenyan and Ethiopian incursion into Somalia. The last time Ethiopian troops invaded Somalia was in 2006, when the goal of the government was to overthrow the Union of Islamic Courts that was under the control of incumbent President Sheikh Sharif Sheikh Ahmed. Al-Shabaab has been displaced by the allied forces after Kenyan troops entered the south of Somalia, and now the Ethiopian troops are in control of central Somalia and are venturing in new areas in the south.
We are appealing to the United Nations and the international community to call on frontline countries that share borders with Somalia to immediately pull out all their forces.
Ethiopia and Somalia have had their differences, and Somalia overpowered Ethiopia in 1977, and Somalia with the guidance of the late Siad Barre, and we see this new incursion as revenge to their laws.
The African Union mission in Somalia forces are assisting the Somalia's transitional federal government in the fight against the Al-Shabaab, which has lately launched a series of attacks in Mogadishu. Abdulaziz Bilo, Press TV, Mogadishu.
Well, that brings us to an end of this edition of the news. Thank you so much for staying with us. At the top of the hour, it's News in Brief.